called a hustle, sweetheart.
Okay.
Welcome, Tarovians. The Tarovians have always been here. The Tarovian neck pinch has always been here. This is the 210th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 7th of June, 2017, and featuring The Lie of the Land, written by Toby Whithouse, and starring Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, and Matt Lucas as Nardole, guest starring Michelle Gomez as Missy. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
I had sushi this week.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
How you all doing?
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
I did not have sushi.
And Thomas Fireheart Kennedy.
So can we refer to them now as the Illuminati?
Romeo Moon will not be with us this evening because she has an early shift tomorrow, but her thoughts and feelings will be with us.
Yes.
Indeed.
At the very least, her thoughts.
It's been a long time since she's had to get up at 4 in the morning.
It's been a while, yes. It has definitely been a while.
And, of course, they'd have to schedule her to do so on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Just to ruin our fun.
Of course.
All right, so tonight we are going to have the news, as usual, followed by Bill and I giving our thoughts on the latest movie to hit the theaters, Wonder Woman.
Yep.
Followed by our usual review of the current episode. And finally, this week we actually get to get a rating because it's the end of this arc.
Yay.
One of the longest arcs in New Who, it's done.
Yes. All right,
the three longest, and there's three of them that tie.
Let's get this started with birthdays, and I had to actually fish for some this week, let me tell you. The first birthday was on the 1st of June, and is Jonathan Pryce, the Master from Curse of Fatal Death. Turned 70. You might remember him as kind of the extra cheesy Master.
Yeah, he thinned out a bit.
Well, you would too after spending so many hundreds of years in a sodding sewer.
I thought you could also have more Dalek bumps.
Jonathan was recently in Game of Thrones until he was vaporized last year.
Oh.
And is now set to play Charles Dickens' father in the upcoming movie The Man Who Invented Christmas.
Oh, now that I click his picture, I recognize him. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mainly
that
remember him
mustache
as
to that.
playing a Bond
He was
villain.
a kind of important character, yeah.
He is, and I mean, technically speaking, he's playing the Master, which is I do the birthdays for all the Curse of Fatal Death doctors,
So,
even though they're
yeah,
non-canonical.
might
I'll do it.
Well,
for
I
the
mean,
Master.
I meant for as far as Game of Thrones, because like,
Oh.
who was he in Game of Thrones? And I clicked on the picture. I'm like, oh, he was him.
Yeah, I have no idea who he is, but don't tell me. But
Okay.
yeah,
Spoilers.
I just knew he. It mentioned the fact that he got blown up last year, so I'm like, okay. All right. Moving on to the 2nd of June, it's John Coleshaw, one of the master impressionist and host of Dead Ringers, whenever it's on, turned 49. John is best known for his eerily accurate impression of Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor, though he does have a much larger repertoire. I think last week I just actually had passed around a video of his that he did doing the 50th anniversary and doing both Tom and John Pertwee.
By the way, it's John Pertwee is eerily right.
Yeah,
Most of it.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell, when he's recreating Tom Baker's lines, every now and then he'd get a nuance wrong. But the rest of the time
Mainly
he was...
because we had all heard the scene multiple times and could actually tell the difference.
A little bit as well. but
Yes.
some of us also just know Tom
He
inflections by
he
heart.
was eerily that, and his poetry was also perfect.
I'm surprised he's
I had actually
audio.
mentioned afterwards that if they could get Sean Pertwee to be the face and get John Coleshaw to do the voice, that would be perfect. Or freaking hire Coleshaw to do the Third Doctor for Third Doctor Audio Adventures at Big Finish.
Yes, at the very
because
least.
he has lent his voice to Big Finish on occasion. So we know that if Tom Baker ever, actually does die, pray to God that doesn't happen anytime soon. But we know that they'll probably tap Coleshaw to play the Fourth Doctor. Recently, John has been voicing characters on the ITV series Newzoids, and is the narrator for Sun, Sea, and Selling Houses on Channel 4. And finally, we go up to the 3rd of June, and our last birthday for this week, Penelope Wilton, who plays Harriet Jones, MP for Flysdale North, and later Prime Minister.
Yes, we know who she is.
Thank you. Penelope turned 71. She's come up from being Prime Minister to being the Queen in last year's movie, The BFG. She was also in 6 episodes of the ITV dramedy Brief Encounters.
Queen as in the British Queen, yes?
It just says the Queen.
Maybe. I don't remember the Giants having a queen, so I would assume the British Queen, because I
would
think
think
the
so.
British Army gets involved at one point.
I didn't see the BFG, so
I read the book in
I haven't read
so.
that book in like almost 20 years. So
It's been a while for me, yeah.
Anyway, Penelope is scheduled to be in 2 historical dramas in 2017. Zoo, which is currently in post-production, and Guernsey, which is filming now. So happy birthday, Penelope, John, and John. Good luck with that. And now we go from birth to death.
Sad death, and this is a sad one. Peter Sallis has died at the age of 96. While Sallis was best known for his role as Norman Clegg in the BBC sitcom Last of the Summer Wine, in 295 episodes from 1973 to 2010, and for voicing the inventor Wallace of Wallace and Gromit fame, Doctor Who fans will best know him as Penley, the renegade scientist from the Ice Warriors in 1967. Sallis was... Yes?
I remember that, because we reviewed that not that long ago.
Yes, when we brought him up, in fact, during that.
I was sitting here trying to remember. I'm like, I remember us talking about him recently, but I couldn't remember like why we were. But yeah, we did review that, so we probably did talk about it at the same time.
All right.
Sallis was also meant to play Stryker in the 5th Doctor story Enlightenment, but a delay in filming caused him to have a scheduling conflict and give up the role to Keith Barron. Early in his career, Sallis also appeared in such films as Curse of the Werewolf, Wuthering Heights, and The Day of the Triffids.
Day of the Triffids, man.
Also, Taste of the Blood of Dracula, which was Curse of the Werewolf and Blood of Dracula are both Hammer films.
Yeah.
Hammer Studios.
Hammer.
Good stuff.
Can't touch that. Several of Sallis's Wallace and Gromit appearances won BAFTA or Academy Awards for Best Animated Short Film, and Sallis was awarded the Order of the British Empire in 2007 for services to drama. He died peacefully in his nursing home on the 2nd of June.
You know, he was 96.
Age of 96.
Yep.
He was 96. That is a very good run.
I was looking for a cause, but I guess at 96.
At 96,
really
they
one.
usually don't bother giving one. They usually stop giving them over 80 unless it was something very, very, very specific.
And they did just say died peacefully, so I would assume he was not like legit sick, so one might assume he just naturally passed on.
But how did they know it was peaceful? Was someone there watching him?
Probably.
Well, his family was all there, so they must have known.
One would assume his family was watching over him on a daily basis or so at that age.
I know, when my family had some of our elderly pass on, we always had at least one family member by their side, so... Anyway, enough with the depressive stuff. Let's move on to our episode news.
Yes.
All right. So the first bit of news from Lie of the Land is the United Kingdom overnight viewing figures. Lie of the Land had this coming to us from Doctor Who News, our standard news source. 3.01 million viewers, which was 15% of the total TV audience.
Now, this was the episode that we were expecting low viewership due to.
Because it was directly opposite Britain's Got Talent on ITV, which was the top of the day and had 8.19 million viewers. This is this is the lowest overnight viewing that Doctor Who has received in its history, with the next lowest being 1989's Battlefield with 3.1 million.
Ouch.
However, there is definitely an expectation, again, because of Britain's Got Talent and because of technology, that the official ratings will pick up once all the numbers are in.
Yeah, with the plus 1 week people that queue it up again to watch it, this will climb up.
Yep. Doctor Who was the 4th most watched show of the day,
which
Still
isn't
the 4th
bad.
Watched, yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
and the
For that
2 and 3
numbers, it didn't sink that hard apparently.
2 and 3 only had less than 250,000 more than it, which were Casualty and the Keith and Patty Picture Show.
Really? So you mean the actual benefit special didn't actually outrank it? That's surprising.
That's an interesting thought too. Yeah, I would assume actually probably more people actually went to the benefit special live.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know. Was that televised? I didn't.
That was televised. That was
I think
the
it was
whole
online and
reason
televised.
Britain's Got Talent got moved.
Right. I mean, I thought it was. I thought it was only a live event. I didn't think it was.
I think it was online first, and then they televised it shortly after it was done.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
I think that's the way I heard what was going. But anyway.
Well, so that is the next bit from me, which is the press reactions to Lie of the Land. The Mirror found it confusing, but appreciated the actors, especially Missy.
The Mirror's always confused.
Well, Missy, whenever Missy comes into the show, everybody's just like, yeah, Missy, yeah. She's hugely popular, so.
She pulled back a few layers this time, too. Anyway.
The Telegraph particularly praised Pearl Mackey's performance with the range that she showed there, particularly noting the slightly censored scene where she threatens to beat the shit out of Nardole. Radio Times felt that the scene with Bill and the Doctor, the big one from the trailer or from the image galleries, was a misfire. No, well, pun partially intended.
I'm pretty sure pun was partially intended.
It specifically says that it presents the Doctor, Bill, and Nardole in a poor light. Okay.
Not really, but.
AV Club says the episode was disappointing and that the skills of the actors were greatly outweighed the quality of the script. Ars Technica also felt that way about the script, so there's a general theme here that the acting was brilliant and the writing was poor. And that's pretty much how the rest of them go as well. Okay, so we move on to Australia. Where there was 428,000 viewers in the 5 major cities. It was the 2nd highest rated ABC drama of the day and the 10th highest rated program of the day overall. As usual, not including iView, regional, or time-shifted viewers. The final Australian ratings for Extremis brought it up to a total of 513,000 viewers, including time-shifted. That was a total of 91,000 extra viewers, which made it the third highest time-shifted program of the day, with the highest having 166,000, and the 12th highest rated program of the day overall.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, we went to Australia, so I had to get my Australian style licorice out.
They've been selling that over here too.
Okay, and our final bit of on the lie of the land is the audience appreciation index, which comes in at a total of 82.
Average.
Yep.
Mhm.
Which, like, pretty much every other episode this season.
Right.
Pretty much.
The highest score for the evening on the main two channels was Mrs. Brown's Boys, which was an 85.
Which always scores an 85, and is always the number one thing shown.
Yeah.
Somebody in their sampling is a huge Mrs. Brown Boys fan. Now,
I do remember earlier it would usually be Casualty, though, so...
Is Casualty often Mrs. Brown Boys on then, maybe?
Or
is Mr. Brown's Boys just a new show that really has been getting a lot of interest?
let's see. It looks like Casualty is not airing at the moment.
So it might replace Casualty then.
Because if you look at our recent plus ones that we've had recently, Casualty's hasn't been on them, I think, in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, why don't we go to that? Let's take a look for the Pyramid at the End of the World, including your HD +1. It's actually a good segue. I didn't realize it until I looked at my next article.
Oh.
So we look at the +1 viewings for Pyramid at the End of the World, and it had an official rating of 5.79 million.
Damn.
This was high enough to make the Doctor Who the 14th most watched program on that week, and the 6th highest on the BBC.
That's a 6-space jump, isn't it? I think last week was 20. Yeah.
Yeah. And 20 was the highest I could remember before that, so damn.
It was also the highest rated non-soap drama. So if you look at the other things on the list, Coronation Street, soap drama. That's why it's on there 5 times, because it's on every day.
Yeah.
EastEnders, soap drama. It's on every day. Emmerdale, soap drama.
Is it on every
and
day?
it even lost a few spots to Doctor Who that week.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it did. So once you take out these soaps, what you've got is Match of the Day Live, football. Okay, you're not going to beat football.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not happening.
As much as we would like to think otherwise, but
you're not beating football in England.
Sports, especially football in England, yeah.
And then, of course, Britain's Got Talent, which is, it's British American Idol. It's the big freaking gun.
Yeah.
It's going to dominate regardless of anything else on.
By the way, American plebs that aren't aware, football to us, to British, is soccer to us.
Yes. Yes, but you will not call it by that abomination. If anything, call it association football. I can deal with that. But you call it soccer is a horrible. And this is from somebody who played the sport as a kid, calling it that. I mean, why do Americans call football football? How much are your feet actually used for anything other than running? You've got your opening kick,
goals.
The opening kick, the extra point, and the punt. That's it.
Pretty much.
Well, it goes back to the time when the game was actually played with a severed foot instead of a ball. So it was a
right. Right. No, we all know that football is basically wussified rugby. I say it's wussified because they use safety gear.
Meanwhile, real rugby is still played even in Britain, and they beat the shit out of each other.
Pretty much. Okay. So going on from the rating, we have a little bit here on Moffat talking about names in this series and a theory that had sparked up on the internet. If you remember back to the beginning of the series, in the pilot, we have Pearl Mackie playing Bill Potts and our traveler, who was named Heather. Now, this is the reason fans are speculating this is because, of course, Bill was also the nickname for William Hartnell, Bill Hartnell, and his wife's name was Heather.
Oh.
So fans are basically been asking Stephen Moffat, was this some kind of in-joke to William Hartnell and his wife? Yada, 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 yada. And finally, Stephen Moffat got fed up and came out and said, no, it's a pure coincidence. Absolutely wasn't even on his mind. And then it's like, but was it really? Had these names lodged somewhere mysteriously emerging as I typed my way into a whole new era of Doctor Who? No, because it was just a coincidence. Because, of course, Moffat could not be a troll even for like a minute and a half.
That's what I have to say. Of course, we have to take everything he says with a grain of salt because Moffat is like the second biggest troll next to the Sixth Doctor when it comes to the internet.
Yep. And so we go from the past to the future, and we take a quick look at publicity photos for the upcoming The Empress of Mars, the episode which I believe has Matt squeeing.
Eek.
And it may very well be Mark Gatiss' last
Aaron
episode
comes
of
out
Doctor
to
Who.
grab something, and she's just like, I heard that. This high-pitched squeak. Yeah, 5-year-old girl. 5-year-old girl at a Teen Idol concert.
I'm sorry. I like my popular monsters from Doctor Who.
Anyway, so the very first picture has Capaldi looking right at a typical Ice Warrior. I mean, that armor.
That looks like your basic 1970s Ice Warriors updated.
Right in front of either a very well-lit matte photo or more likely a green screen.
Yeah,
Either is possible. This is probably a staged photo like we usually get for a first photo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, it does get to show off the detail on that armor.
Yes, and very nicely so.
And, I mean, it is better than the original 60s
by far.
Ice Warrior armor.
It actually looks like real armor.
Mm-hmm. It looks really nice. And then, of course, we start getting into the British Army.
Yeah, these British Army guys, which slightly raised my eyebrow.
Yes, the Victorian British Army, who are on Mars, with weird steampunky-like equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, Steven, everybody, steampunk isn't as big as it used to be. I mean, I was even mentioning back when you had the steampunky TARDIS look that it was a little bit too late.
Yeah, but every once in a while, what's his face? The guy that visits Mars becomes popular again. The guy it's made by the same guy who made Tarzan. I can't remember.
You're thinking of John Carter of Mars.
John Carter. Every once in a while, John Carter comes around to being popular again. So, I guess Moffat was having a John Carter kick.
Possibly.
And this is the closest he can get to going to Mars with John Carter.
And second photo on the end, we see the vault again. So
Doctor
apparently,
is in a new spacesuit, and now he's visiting the door again.
Yeah, apparently he's going to have one of those through the door conversations with Missy again, where Missy only answers in piano.
Quite possibly, she has to answer from across the room after all. So I'm not sure how she hears him.
Well, she only answers in Forte when things get serious.
Maybe he has a microphone that goes through the door to her when he's outside. I don't know.
More pictures of the Doctor and the British Army.
And the Doctor with the door. Here's the Doctor with another door. And yeah, there's the British guys again.
Yep, and then we get through those, and then there's Nardole in the TARDIS. Also, yeah, these are definitely new spacesuits.
Yeah,
these are definitely new spacesuits now.
So I randomly clicked one photo and I thought at first that it was a rather anachronistic woman being in the British Army. Then I realized that it was Bill in a spacesuit from the back. Like, oh, yep, that makes more sense.
The one here.
The one where the doctor's doing dishes.
They have
But
interesting.
I wonder if
I
he
hadn't
gets
seen the one to
mistaken
the left of it when I clicked it.
I wonder if he gets mistaken for a ship's cook again.
They have interesting glowy bits on those suits, by the way.
Yeah. I'm wondering where they picked these up. They look cool.
It must have been a much more advanced era than when they picked up the orange suits. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, these look kind of interesting, kind of Star Trek-y or Rubicon.
They're definitely not from Oxygen, unless I'm very, very mistaken.
Oh no, they're
no.
definitely not the Oxygen suits.
The oxygen ones still had a little bit of orange in them.
And then finally, the
and we
last
see
row.
Nardole is apparently on Mars.
Yeah, he has one of the suits.
Yep.
Only he doesn't leave his helmet on all the time because cue Nardole.
Oh, there's the queen.
Yep, down at the bottom.
She has a interesting sleeked back helmet.
Very insectoid.
Actually, almost Predator-esque, especially with that hair.
Oh, yeah.
Very Predator-esque. Which I don't blame them for taking a few ideas from more modern stuff.
Just as long as Capaldi doesn't get the queen to take off her helmet and say, "You are one ugly motherfucker."
You're one ugly son of a bitch.
That's more something Bill would say. But by the way, with the tech, I was kind of, if anything, what I thought it was Journey to the Center of the Earth.
A little bit of that too.
Same era.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, Journey to the Center of the Earth
era.
was Jules Verne, who I think was like a decade before Burroughs.
I'm pretty sure at least one version of it has them in the same uniforms, which I'm guessing are period accurate.
They're more or less
Victorian
period
period, yeah.
accurate. They're a little bright for that period, but other than that,
really depends on what they've been doing. I mean, these would be they look kind of like dress uniforms. I keep thinking of the scene in Monty Python's The Meaning of Life, the tiger in Africa scene.
Where the guy has a missing leg.
Mm-hmm.
So just grow back then.
All right. So I think that really does it for the photos.
Yeah, they're cool photos.
All right. So we go from episode news to spin-off news. Tim, take it away.
All right. Now, I know this will shock people, and it will be devastating to the world, but Patrick Ness will not be making more class.
Yay!
A second series is unlikely. A moment of silence for this great show.
No. No, I mean, Class was mediocre at best.
For majority of it, yes.
It had
I
one
still
or two
blame
good
a large
episodes.
part of that on the fact that they took someone with no television experience and don't seem to have given him any support.
Yes, pretty much.
Patrick Ness made a comment on Twitter saying, "I decided a while back that, with unbelievable regret, I won't be writing any more Class, even if a season 2 moves ahead. It has been the most amazing experience. I loved it, and I am so proud of the show and what we made. My heart just bursts with happy. But we should be filming right now. With the news cycles of Who, we pretty much need to be on the air before even 2019, but we're not. And that's just TV and how it goes. Not even the littlest bit bitter. What an amazing experience. Huge thank yous to BBC Three and BBC America for their love and enthusiasm for Class.
BBC America, huh?
In particular, absolutely loves the show.
That's why they delayed it for 6 months. Okay.
Other than a few delusions he might be suffering, I don't totally blame him for the show. I blame the fact that they didn't give him any help for the show.
Yeah,
Because
and
he obviously was not a person you should hand the full reins over to. You should have an
No.
aide or two with him.
no, he was not ready to be a showrunner.
No.
Right.
He had no experience even being a regular writer for TV.
Mhm.
He
As
needed a
of
little
yet.
more time to dip his his foot in the waters
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and get a little more used to the whole TV production side of things. I mean, Moffat was
Unfortunately, the person who really should have been overseeing it, I think there was a shiny Sherlock somewhere that he had to go look at.
well,
That
Look
and
at-
also
look at
prepare
Moffat.
production of the next Doctor Who. So.
Moffat was writing one episode of Doctor Who a year for 4 years, and he is a mediocre showrunner at best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's great at writing his own stuff, but it's not always what we want to see, and he's terrible at editing other people's work. He's a good writer, but he's not a good showrunner. Russell T Davies, on the other hand, was a great showrunner, just not the greatest writer.
He could at least write his way out of a paper bag, but not by much.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of his endings were very Deus Exy.
Mm-hmm.
He would seem to kind of
Chekhov
run up to
Gunny,
the end
too.
and then try to get everything over with really quickly. But he was great at working with other people on getting their scripts in and getting everything else done.
And making sure the rest of the season actually meshed with itself.
Yeah, he was really good with that. And keeping things in continuity with each other. He was good with that.
Yes.
But so he was a great showrunner. It's like him and Moffat are like mirrors of each other.
They should have been working at the same time.
They were
Yeah.
when Russell T was in charge.
Well,
This is when
Moffat
Moffat
wrote a few
put out.
stories. He didn't actually sit there and help Russell edit.
No. Well, yes.
No, well,
if they'd taken the time to actually, if they had done one more season of Doctor Who under Russell T, with Moffat being like deputy showrunner, where basically Moffat was learning the reins of how to do these things like editing scripts and everything from Russell
Like
T.
if Moffat took over Doctor Who while RTD kind of oversaw the three combined show properties and, as an umbrella.
If they kept like RT on as an exec or something for a season.
Right.
Something like that, where he could sit here and go, Moffat, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to work on this. I will help you with this, but you got to watch what I do,
Watch what I
That
do
kind
so
of
you can
stuff.
learn this.
And then
This
at the
will
end
help
of the season, fly, be free. Things would have been better, but Moffat went into the show running bit cold. And it shows.
Yeah.
And Patrick Ness had little writing credits, much less show running experience when they did Class. So
Speaking of which, by the way, I still need to see his movie. The movie that was made out of one of his books. What was it called again? Something the Monster? Called the Monster or something like that?
you'll have to look them up on Wiki. I'm not
Because
going to do it right
I've
now.
actually seen the DVD in stores now, so it's just like, oh, well, when that goes on sale, maybe I'll
All
grab
right.
it.
So going from Patrick Ness news, we're pretty much going right down to Big Finish news
Yep.
because there was not a lot of news this
Yep.
week.
Yes. So
And I have two more pieces after the Big Finish news, and then we're done with news.
Mm-hmm.
So our first bit of Big Finish news is a new short trip written by Jonathan Barnes, directed by Lisa Bowerman, and read by Annika Wills, who we know as Polly Jackson. Long ago, Mrs. Polly Jackson traveled in the TARDIS with her friends, the Doctor and Ben. Together, they saw many remarkable things, some magical, some terrifying, some filled with awe and wonder. What is Jamie, chop liver? Only one incident, however, was truly inexplicable, a single encounter which failed at the time to wholly make sense. At least that is until today. So I guess they encountered a Moffat plot out there in the wilderness.
Fucking Moffat Loop was just hanging out there in the middle of nowhere.
Look at this plot hole. It's so big you could drive the entire TARDIS through it.
All right. Also out now is Torchwood _Cascade _CD_rip.torrent. Which I'm trying to remember. Yeah, there's not an actual description of the plot other than that it has, a mock copyright or a internet or intellectual property theft warning thing, etc. This is starring Naoko Mori as Toshiko Sato, written and directed by Scott Hancock and produced by James Goss. Scott Hancock says Cascade is what happens when you let an audio director loose with all the toys. It's a story designed to be heard and is unlike any other Torchwood story Big Finish have told. Sound designer Rob Harvey and composer Blair Mowat have raised their game for this one. And Naoko Mori really finds the heart in a story ostensibly about the shady world of internet piracy.
Or as I call it, the skeezy part of the internet or the gray web.
Because
Either
there's
one.
worse places.
There's worse places. I mean, there's places where there's like human slavery out there. It's called the dark web. It's an evil freaking area.
And places that we'd rather not go to.
Correct. It's not any place I want to go to. But this part is that area that's just under the surface that you start feeling a little bit dirty when you go down, and not the good kind of dirty. It floats just above the internet porn level, but just above it. And so apparently this is a story all about that location. Great.
Also out now because
The internet is
I guess
really,
it's
really great.
Torchwood Week is The Lives of Captain Jack, which is we've covered it once or twice. 4 stories starring John Barrowman as Jack Harkness in different eras, with guest stars Camille Kadori, Russell Tovey, Katie Manning as a new character. I checked, Mother Nothing. She's not playing Iris or Joe.
Unless it's
Sarah
Iris
Doug-
in disguise, which is always possible.
That is possible, yes, but not according to the credits. But yes, if it's in disguise, it wouldn't be in the credits. Sarah Douglas and Alexander Vlahos.
Because that, by the way, they have done that a couple times in Big Finish, where
True.
it's Katie Manning voicing a character, and you discover, like in the last 10 minutes of it, it's actually Iris Wildtime under an alias, and you're just like, fuck.
That was just like I think the Alex McQueen Masters first appearance. He was credited as the other Doctor, because you don't find out until the last disc who he really is.
Yeah, they're fun of doing that last minute twist because they can when you're only dealing in audio.
Right. Camille Kadori, on the other hand, is playing Jackie Tyler. She is not a surprise.
Okay.
Jackie.
So does anyone want to bet that he dies at the end of every episode?
Well, at least one of these is from before he gets his immortality.
Oh.
So just a quick reminder, there's one that seems to be set. There's one that's set basically in the aftermath of. I'm trying to remember. Bad Wolf. Is that the name of? No, it was Journey's End. No, damn it.
Which one, Bill?
What was the episode after Bad Wolf?
Parting of the Ways.
Parting of
That's
Ways.
the one.
Yeah.
It's in the aftermath of Parting of the Ways, so that's right when he's first restored. There's another one with Jack with Jackie Tyler, so we're not entirely sure where in Jack's timeline that falls. It's obvious where in Jackie's. There's one in the aftermath of The End of Time after Jack's, I believe it was his grandson, is recently killed and he's met Alonzo Frame. And then there is one where he is the young star of the Time Agency and his life is about to fall apart. That's 2 episodes by Guy Adams and 2 episodes by James Goss, not in that order.
Interesting.
All right. Now we move on to... did I
More
skip?
Torchwood.
I skipped a window. Yep. Yeah, more Torchwood. And I think this is the one trailer I didn't listen to because apparently I skipped a link when I was opening them all earlier.
Bad Bill, no biscuit.
But there's a Torchwood Series 5 trailer out now that you can listen to from BigFinish.com. This is Series 5 in the sense that it follows off of Miracle Day with Gwen Cooper, Reese, and Jack creating a new team. Looking at the cover, it also includes the guy whose name I forget, which might be on this article, Gwen's cop friend. It's not on the article. But the name of the series is Aliens Among Us, and will start being released in August. And yeah, if I hadn't missed opening this among the other Big Finish windows, I would be able to tell you about the trailer, but I apparently...
And that was actually the news on it, was the fact that there was a trailer for it now.
Should we share maybe a quick 8 seconds or less?
No,
Big Finish doesn't complain nearly as much as BBC.
I'd rather not get us in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a minute and a half, so maybe at some point I can mute my mic and give some quick thoughts on it, but I'm not going to do that while everyone's waiting for me to talk. So I'll just move on to the next piece, which is the announcement of a new companion. Rocky Thakrar, I'm sure I pronounced that dreadfully because she appears to be, it looks like Indian. But she is
Thakrar. Rocky, you got Rocky right, but it's Thakrar. So, close enough.
Yep. So that is the actress who will be playing the new companion for the 8th Doctor Time War sets. Is there anything else about this companion yet? Her name is Bliss. The actress is known as Shabnam Masood from EastEnders.
So she's from EastEnders, of course.
They say she's incredibly bright, but is not excluded from making mistakes and having a sense of humor. So that's pretty much the generic description of almost all companions, except for like Jamie and Leela, and maybe 1 or 2 others. So she'll be traveling along with the Doctor in the Time War, and considering that we know what happens the night of the Doctor, I'm kind of wondering whether she's going to get dropped off at some point, or if she's just going to be horribly murdered by Daleks.
Either is a possibility.
Well, with a name like Bliss, I'm hoping that they're not trying to make a audio version of the novel companion Compassion, which the end of her story arc was she got turned into a TARDIS.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I hope not. That sounds silly.
It was. I read this because I had the novel where this happened, and I'm reading this going, what the I'm like, what the hell?
Silly is silly is silly.
And because
that seems to be a different
the Doctor
war.
Flying off, fleeing from Romana and the other Time Lords who wants to capture her and breed her with their TARDISes, and I'm just like, no.
Ew.
No.
But yeah, that seems to be a different Time War.
I'm like reading this going, no. Where did you do this? Who wrote this? Paul Cornell? God damn it, Paul. And, this is the same guy that did, Human Nature, Family of Blood, so I'm like, I liked that. I didn't like this.
So people hearing this news have understandably asked what happened to Liv Chenka and Helen Sinclair, who have been traveling with the Doctor in Doom Coalition. So we actually got an answer from that from Big Finish's official Twitter account. They said there will be separate ongoing series. So for the time being, there will be 8th Doctor Time War sets and whatever the sequel to Doom Coalition is, whatever new name that has, probably starting with a D because we went from Dark Eyes to Doom Coalition, which will probably also be 4 sets. So that basically says we'll be having 2 different runs of 8 Doctor box sets going on at the same time, one with Helen and Liv and one with Bliss.
I thought they announced the end of Doom Coalition.
They did. The last box set of Doom Coalition is coming out. Let me see when the date on that is, but there will be, this is basically them saying, yes, there will be a follow-up series that is not the Time War. So it's not going straight from Doom Coalition to Time War. There is something else set after Doom Coalition that's also coming out.
I'm hoping that they are going to do something.
Doom
that,
Coalition 4 came out in March, so that was the end of Doom Coalition.
Yeah,
But
I'm
basically
hoping
saying
that
they're
they are
focusing
going to eventually make this a linear progression.
Yeah.
Because
The
Hopefully
thing with
they
that
do
is, then they're going to run out of, they'll have to find somewhere else to start putting the new 8th Doctor box sets.
Yeah, I know. I'm just hoping eventually there is a cause to effect strain here. Because otherwise, because the way they said it is that there's two separate threads, which could also mean that there's two separate continuities going on. And that bothers me. So that it just
in that sense, it would be separate continuities in the sense that you don't know where they meet up, but they're still the same timeline. And sort of just like how so many doctors have multiple periods where they travel with original companions, and they don't really, you can't quite tell where they mesh up with other things. I don't think they would make it a whole alternate universe type of thing.
I'm hoping not, because when they do that, it annoys me. Okay, so moving on to our last two pieces of news. The first one is that quite recently they found an original 1967 Ice Warrior head helmet piece. I haven't found where they found it. I was trying to find that out, but they
Antarctic.
They acquired it last year, and they have since gotten it to a specialist team led by Mike Tucker, who was a BAFTA award-winning model maker who's worked on both Classic and New Who. And they have been working with Toy Box Treasures to restore this helmet to its original basic condition from basically the original Ice Warriors story. Doctor Who Magazine 513 has basically the full story behind this on the entire bit of the restoration and preservation of it. There's no news on what they're planning on doing with the helmet. One would assume that at least for the time being, it would be going into the Doctor Who experience.
That or auctioned off for charity.
I've seen no sign of that. I would think for at least the time being, they'd put it in the experience.
Yeah, I would think they want to keep their hands on it for at least a little while.
Speaking of which, if you are currently in England and you are in the Wales area and you don't have a job at the moment, they are looking for people to work at the Doctor Who experience this summer. Fixed-term summer contracts are being offered to support the core team at the experience during peak periods over the holiday period before the experience closes its doors later this year. We reported that a few weeks ago.
And possibly moves.
There's a petition to have it moved, but there's been no news on that. Successful candidates will be expected to deliver excellent customer service and interact with guests at every opportunity. They'll need to be able to answer visitor questions and deal with queries, as well as assisting visitors who have special requirements, as well as assisting large groups and school parties. You must be able to work on a rotation basis, including weekends, bank holidays, and evenings. BBC is looking for people with a personable and friendly manner, with the ability to work within a fast-paced team environment. Fluency in a second language is useful, as is enjoyment and the knowledge of Doctor Who, including the classic series. The closing date for applicants is the 7th of July, 2017. And you can find the full details at BBC Career Search. So if you love Doctor Who, you need a job, and are in Wales or can get to Wales, or at least Cardiff, this might be the job for you. And that concludes the news portion of tonight.
All right, and I was able to listen to that trailer, so before we move on, I can put some very quick thoughts in on that. There's essentially some sort of alien uprising has occurred in Cardiff. Some of the comments in the trailer are kind of conflicted, so it's a little hard to tell just how open it is. But there's some sort of struggle between the locals of Cardiff and the aliens. And there's mention of a secret police force that's out killing aliens, and the general belief that Torchwood is dead and no longer around to protect Cardiff. So that's essentially setting up the conflict and doesn't really, we don't really have any information on the characters just yet, but that's some of what they'll be dealing with.
Okay, so there you go. Moving on to our Geek Talk section. Of course, the latest movie to hit theaters last week was Wonder Woman. Talk on it has been all over the internet and buzzing amongst my community. Generally, the people that we talked to liked it. Aaron and I went to go see it on Tuesday. Bill saw it sometime over the weekend. So these are our thoughts. Bill, if you want to go first.
Okay. So in general, it was pretty good. I, for one, did not see Batman versus Superman, but I will say I found it more enjoyable than Man of Steel. And it's hard to even compare it to Suicide Squad because there are such different types of films. It's essentially, it's one of those. It starts off on this supernatural location, and then moves into the real world. Very brief fish out of water stuff, but that's not the main focus like it was in Thor. And otherwise, it's just very focused on the actual goal of the characters. Some great scenes. The action had Zack Snyder's fingerprints all over it, but I personally, I enjoyed it, and I've mainly seen positive feedback on the action as well. It's weird because I have trouble specifically differentiating what makes this different from other films. A lot of people have their own opinions, but I'm not just going to quote what other people have said because that wouldn't be my own thought.
Certainly don't quote what I've said because I'm
it.
going to say what I've said.
Yeah, go ahead with your thoughts.
Okay, so I have seen all the movies currently in the DC expanded universe, everything that's come out since Man of Steel. And this is the first time I have come out of one of these movies going, damn, that was a good movie. This is a movie I wouldn't mind seeing again. And this is after last year, which was basically DC's craptacular. You didn't go see Batman v Superman, but I did. It was horrible. And Suicide Squad wasn't much better. It had some redeeming qualities, but a lot of it was just crap, and Jared Leto dragged it down to no end. I would love to see the Jared Leto-ist version of Suicide Squad, but even there, you're going to run into some storyline issues that don't make sense. This one, there was nothing really out of place. Everything made sense. The storyline is great, and it managed to properly convey the range of emotions it's supposed to get. You got the feeling of kind of the supernaturally Lord of the Ringsy feel while you're at Themyscira, aka Paradise Island. Then you laughed at the fish out of water scenes when she first arrives in London. And then
some of which are taken directly from comics.
Some of which are taken directly from comics, which is fine when you're doing this kind of thing. Steal from the good stuff.
Yeah, they're done in a good way. They don't require you to know about the comics, but if you already do, then it's a fun Easter egg.
Then you get to see the horrors of World War I, and this is really where you can kind of really feel Zack Snyder's stink on it because he's great at this grim, dark stuff. But it does convey exactly what it's supposed to, that war is a horrible, nasty thing, which is actually part of the theme for the movie, so that makes sense. And then you actually do get this feeling of hope when she goes into basically big damn hero mode and jumps out to save the day. I had absolutely no problems with Gal Gadot's performance as Wonder Woman. My only nitpick, and this is as a DC Comics geek nitpick, is I wish they'd put her in blue contacts. Because every version I've seen of Wonder Woman's had blue eyes. But that is a minutia nitpick, and I'm not going to hold it against this movie. Chris Pine's performance, on the other hand. Chris Pine is basically... I'm starting to wonder if Chris Pine's one of these one-note actors who can only really play...
I would say he's not, because in... what was the name of it? But in that movie where he played a bank robber, he played a completely different character.
Okay, so he's capable of playing different characters.
Yeah.
My problem is Chris Pine's Steve Trevor is played identically to the way Chris Pine plays James T. Kirk.
Yeah.
I am watching this movie going, okay, he's going to do that. Why is he going to do that? Because that's what Kirk would do. Yep, he did it. God damn it, Jim. My head started referring to him as Jim. I actually half expected Zachary Quinto to show up and go, really, Captain?
I think I made the joke at one point that if he has descendants down the line that might be then that might go on to become the Kirk family.
Yeah.
Steve Trevor in space.
Yeah. There was kind of that whole mental concept of reincarnation in my mind. It's like, when the wheel comes around again, will he be James T. Kirk?
Right.
It was that kind of popped into my head. But yes, because his performance was exactly that. His performance was also, I felt, a little too modern for the setting. If this had been a World War II drama, which I'm very sure they didn't do because they didn't want people to say, oh, it's Captain America.
Captain America is played by Thor.
His views on certain things would be considered liberal, but within the realm of concept. But this is 20 years before that. This is the late 1910s. Some of his concepts on marriage and sex were a little too modern for the era. And that made him feel a little anachronistic for me. I actually, honest to God, wonder if they did, like in the first draft of the script writing phase, write this as a World War II period.
Oh, I would definitely think that was the case. I think that they wrote this as a World War II movie, and someone's like, no, the movie people, the audience is going to think we're ripping off Captain America.
Yep. That's exactly what I wrote on Facebook in my review, is that's what I suspect happened. And so they cut it back to World War I just to differentiate it. You're still fighting the Germans, but they're not Nazis.
Hell, come to think of it, the one politician that there was issues with in terms of the way they treated people, I could see that line coming out of Churchill's mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into details for anyone who hasn't seen it, but
yeah,
that definitely would work.
Yeah, there's some telltale signs there.
Just as a brief thing, one criticism that I've seen is that this is kind of unduly blames World War I on the Germans, which is something that happened in real life as well. But I think that's partially one because of it originally, because of World War II, both in the fact that the way we look back on the World Wars and the fact that if it started off life as that, there are, they do definitely depict that there were terrorists on both sides. But for instance, I don't think it's really a spoiler to mention that mustard gas plays a role in this World War I movie, but they kind of almost make it look as if it was the sole province of the Germans, which wasn't true. Kind of, things like that. Which could have been a little bit more equal.
Yeah, there was a little bit of the blame game going on. I mean, if you remember, World War I was started because a Serbian nationalist assassinated a Hungarian or a Austrian prince. And because it was one of those little international things, A declared war on B, which meant C declared war on A, and D declared war on C, and and suddenly everybody was fighting each other. It was not a pretty war. It was not a pretty war. So it wasn't fully Germany's fault. It wasn't fully England's fault. It was you want to blame the millions of deaths on somebody, blame it on the Serbian nationalists. But he might have had reasons for what he did. He was probably oppressed. Fuck if I know. This was all over 100 years ago, and my father wasn't even a twinkle in his father's eye yet. Heck, my grandfather was a soldier in frickin' World War II. So this would have meant it was the era of my great-grandfather, who I never met.
I'm not sure about my father's side, but I know my mother's side were all farmers, so they had to stay home and keep making food for the home country.
But either way, there were atrocities on both sides.
Yeah.
And it was really the fallout from World War One that started people talking about wartime reparations and the Geneva Convention and that kind of thing.
Yep.
People were going, wow, shit got real. And now we actually have to talk it out. And that's kind of part of the theme, is the fact that it is implied that Ares is indirectly responsible for like all of war, like since time immemorial.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's part of the struggle that's going on, is the question of whether it's human nature or whether it's Ares' influence or not. And I don't want, the movie kind of comes to an answer that that's why I'm not going to go in more detail about it.
Well,
But that's part of the conflict, or not conflict, but part
even
of the
if he wasn't directly responsible,
goal
he
there.
was still feeding them
he played
new and
a
wonderful
role.
ways of killing each other.
Right. He was still the god of war, yes.
Mm-hmm. But yes, my other issue with a couple of things was I didn't like some of the lighting in the movie. It just like I don't know. It seemed too dark in a couple areas.
Yeah, I noticed that they have the bleak filters when she gets into the middle of fighting again.
Well, the bleak filters when she gets into the middle of fighting, it's not bad because it's World War One. It is supposed to be this gray, ugly, bleak color. That's
to a degree,
right.
but it still smacks of Man of Steel, which never well
yes,
with me.
but if you had never seen if not for the fact that we've all seen other things from the DC universe, I don't think there'd be as much of an issue, because if you're even using a 10% amount of expressionism in a World War One film, that's what it's going to look like.
Yes.
It's just that it happened to be used incorrectly before.
Yes, and it was used correctly here because scenes of Themyscira didn't have that shit going on.
Yeah. In Themyscira, it does not look remotely like that.
And London looked...
And speaking of which, Gail Simone basically squeed all over Twitter at how Themyscira looked in this movie.
Yeah,
she
was like the happiest woman on Twitter for when she watched that movie.
Another thing I liked is the fact that they didn't over-sexualize the Amazon. And what I mean like this is there are scenes from...
Definitely not as much as Marston did.
Yeah, there are scenes from like the old Justice League TV show where they had to go to Themyscira at one point, and you like see a bunch of Amazons in the bath and everything, and there was none of that bullshit.
Oh yeah, kind of related, but not the same thing. But still kind of nice. Everyone's seen fictional portrayals of Amazons where they're like, all men are evil. We're going to punish you because you're a man. That didn't happen here. There was one moment where a good character was viewed in a negative way, but it was for a different reason. That was logical within the situation, not because you happen to be a man, so you're evil.
Well, part of that actually should have taken place because if I remember my Wonder Woman lore correctly, come out of my mouth right, what I'm saying, is the fact that no man was supposed to be allowed to set foot on Themyscira. It was forbidden by the gods. And the penalty for a man setting foot on Themyscira was death. And again, this is, I remember, coming from the comics. True.
And again, there's two reasons I'm glad that it wasn't, and that's one, because it's become an overused trope, even if it was original at one point, and two, in the current cultural climate, it would cause a lot of unnecessary conflicts that aren't necessary.
It's already been causing conflicts. There was a theater in Texas that was doing women-only showings.
Wonder Woman, which is weird because those women-only showings were, days after the release, after everyone had the chance to watch it and other things. But I'm just saying, if adding that sort of context that, people are bad because they're man into this sort of movie would give ammunition to the wrong people and would cause things to escalate unduly.
All right. So all in all, this is the best thing that the DC come by. If you went down to a choice between watching this and watching Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I would still go to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I mean, that movie's awesome, hands down.
Yep.
However, this
But given the choice between watching this and Thor or this and Captain America, I'd watch this.
I don't know about Captain America. I really liked Captain America. I know you didn't, but that's me.
I don't know about the next Thor one.
I really
Well,
like
I'm just saying, in terms of the first ones, the two movies that it's most compared to, I would say this is better than that.
Yeah, but I was comparing to what's currently out in
Gotcha.
right now. You can watch this or you could watch Guardians 2. I would watch Guardians 2 if I was spending money. Now said, if you've seen Guardians 2 and are looking for another movie, this is a good movie. It is enjoyable.
Yes.
It is probably my third best movie this year thus far. Because it's Guardians, Logan, and this. I really liked Logan. It just wasn't happy. So
Hey,
that
I'm
would
Mary
be,
Poppins, y'all.
but that's where my brain goes thus far. And that's all I have to say about Wonder Woman. We move on to the 5-minute challenge, and whose turn is it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Where is it?
I believe Bill did it last time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the time before. Wasn't that Tim already? So I think it's down to... I think it's down to the other three of us.
When was the last time you did it, Matt?
I'm trying to remember. And I'm almost ready to just say, you know what? I'll hands up on this.
Okay, you hands up on it. I'm opening up the stopwatch.
Okay.
I'll grab it. I'll grab it next week.
I'm trying to remember where this one started again. Okay, I think I got it now.
Ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
We technically open up with Bill trying to remember where everything went wrong. Essentially, she remembers saying okay to having the Earth taken over, but then she doesn't remember how she escaped. She's talking to a imaginary version of her mother, trying to keep her thoughts straight as she has noticed that everything's gone crazy. People literally just owning paintings, books, or even comics for that matter, are literally getting grabbed up by dozens and being carted off for no real discernibly good reason. And the occasional person is also getting arrested, saying that they're trying to undermine the monks. The monks are constantly pushing out propaganda that's being spoken out to the public by the Doctor from some sort of private area and getting streamlined to everything. And essentially, they've been altering what people think of the past and saying that the monks have actually controlled everything since time immemorial, even helping the humans become beings out of the primordial soup of the ocean. Long and the short of it, I can't think of his name now. Matt.
Nardole?
Nardole.
Nardole finally long and short of it, Nardole finally pops up into Bill's apartment. They talk for a quick moment, and Nardole has more or less been sick for the last 20 months. He's finally gotten better, and he's been trying to track down the Doctor. He's finally gotten over the disease and will no longer be an infection to anybody because he's managed to fight it off. And they are making plans to sneak up on a small boat that's going to be dropping off supplies on the bigger ship where the Doctor's being held, and they sneak on board. Upon finally getting in, they confront the Doctor, who then apparently calls up the monks and calls in guards in order to help protect himself, and he's literally saying that he has decided to side with the monks for the better good, and because the Earthlings have been just doing nothing with themselves other than pointless bickering, and this is going to help them push along. Bill finally decides that enough's enough, and if the Doctor's not going to save the Earth, she will take it into her own hands and tries to shoot the Doctor. He, spoiler alert, he starts to act like he's going to be changing, but then all of a sudden just stands up and stops, and he is not actually going to become a new Doctor. It's all been a plot up to this point to make sure that Bill came to them and was not actually part of the monks' mind-robbing powers anymore, and she has proven herself 100% all the way through that she will actually try to stop the monks as willingly as anyone else. The Doctor has been apparently making the crew of the ship also the same way, and they make plans to find attack the monks and try and figure out where to stop them. In order to find out where exactly the mind control powers come from, they decide to visit the vault. Upon entering the vault, they talk to Missy. Missy's within, and she's been obviously being held there since the beginning of the season. She finally directs them in the right direction, but decides that the best and easiest way to get rid of it is to kill the person who has started the whole process of taking over the Earth in the first place, which would be Bill. They decided that that's not going to be the right way to go about it, and instead decided to find where the source of all the mind changing is going from, which they decided is the big pyramid that landed in the middle of Britain. They managed to finally sneak in using headsets to help cloud out the sensories from the monks and get their way in. The Doctor tries to use his own mind control over the apparent monk that's controlling everything, but fails to do so and almost gets himself hurt doing it. Bill ties him up very quickly and decides to do it herself, just if nothing else, to at least sacrifice herself to stop the whole programming. What happens in the short run is that the monk starts to fight back, but then they reach the point where they're trying to wipe Bill's mother from her memory, but it proves to be too strong, and she manages to reverse it, causing everything to come back full circle around, and everyone finally remembers that the monks are actually a bunch of phonies and chase them off the planet. The Doctor points out to Bill how humans have already recovered almost completely, and everything seems to be going back to normal, and they don't even recognize the monks as really being aliens or any kind of takeover from them. The Doctor then heads back to the vault and has a talk with Missy, who is starting to remember all the names of the people she has been killing one at a time, and has a slightly tearful moment. Whether or not this is an honest moment, we'll have to find out. And that's it for now.
All right. You did it in 4 minutes, 42 seconds. Almost on the nose.
I'm like
All
a
right.
split second behind you on my end, so yeah, that was close.
Yeah. Well, it was like 4:41.96, but I rounded up. By 0.4 of a second, shoot me.
I'm 43:01. You're slightly slow, I'm slightly fast. Meh. In the middle.
You jumped the gun when you hit the clicker. Okay.
Oh.
So, we now go to our review order. And the first thing we're going to talk about is what we liked overall. And since we have Erin's comments, I will speak for her first. What Erin liked overall was Pearl Mackey's acting, particularly at the scene where she rages at the Doctor before shooting him. Well, yeah, Pearl Mackey did a great job of acting in this. I will not say anything.
In that particular scene, she did a great job of going from extremely angry to the point of disgust and trying to take down the Doctor, to surprise, to anger at God, why is his name slipping from my name?
Nardole.
Getting angry to Nardole, and then coming back around to, okay, yeah, we need to focus and get a plan going.
So she goes through the full gamut there.
She goes through the full gamut very naturally.
I think this episode is a good response. All of the people who claim that the previous episodes have proven that Pearl Mackey can't act, yeah, they can, go fuck themselves.
Don't look at Pearl. Probably look at the directors not prodding her right.
Possibly.
I mean, I still think she had a pretty good range in a few episodes. I think it's more just those people being either just dicks or racist dicks. It's hard to tell.
I would just assume that they're being stuck-up prudes.
I think they're just probably being dicks. They're probably Clara. They're probably the remnants of the Clara fan brigade. Going, but she's not as good as Clara.
But she's not Clara. I'm a Clara. We're sick of
Yeah.
Clara. Move on.
Yeah. It's like, when Capaldi first up was like, no, we don't like him. We hate him. He's not Matt.
Meanwhile, there's still all
Doctor? We want young Doctor.
Meanwhile, there's still the hardcore Amy and Rose fangirls who are still, hating on Clara every chance they get.
Mm-hmm. Or everyone else, yeah. So that's probably where these catty remarks are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Thomas, what did you like about the episode?
I'm just going to say that I liked that it didn't go the way of, this entire thing was just another simulation, which was a thing that people were kind of joking about or just kind of worried that it might go there, but thankfully it didn't.
Thankfully.
All right. Yeah, we were making that as a possibility, I think, last week.
Mm.
Glad it didn't turn out like that.
Right.
Tim, how about you?
I liked the Doctor's interactions with Missy, and from the point of view of their morality.
Okay. You mean the talk about how it would be easier just to kill her, kind of thing?
Yeah, and how
That's not necessarily evil, it's practical from her point of view?
Mhm.
yeah.
Although when she said the whole thing about being, vain, arrogant, and whatever the third one was, I was sitting there like 2 out of 3 already.
Yep. All right.
Vain, arrogant, and emotional, I think it was.
Bill, you're up next.
A lot of things have been taken. I think I'm going to go with Nardole just because, I got a kick out of him a few times, especially remembering him from 2 episodes earlier when, he was putting on this facade and, this is kind of a little more open and exposed.
Mm.
All right.
Secret badass who gets beat up by Bill lightly punching him.
Well, he's basically like a Frankenstein, apparently.
A bit. Yes.
He's got bits and bobs from all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And apparently the doctor got his lungs cheap.
Apparently he's TV's Frank.
He can't do the Vulcan nerve pinch with one of the hands because that wasn't his original hand, and he apparently won it.
Like I said, TV's Frank.
That's another reason I like Nardole. He had the Vulcan nerve pinch.
All right.
It's out of
So,
the blue,
Matt.
and I enjoy it. What I liked, I kind of splinters off of Tim's a little bit. I liked Missy a lot in this one, but in particular, I liked the end bit more. We're slowly starting. If it is going the way I hope it's going, we're actually starting to peel back a little more of the layers on the Master, but it's hard to tell right now. It's a little bit early. But
Well-
the fact that she's sitting there remembering everyone she's wronged and how many people she's killed, and actually sitting there remember every single name and how long that list has probably been by now. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Well, may I make a prediction here? Is the fact that we will see this repentant Missy in the finale until frickin' John Sims walks up to her, smacks her upside the head, and goes, "Why are you thinking this way? We don't care." And Missy goes, "Oh yeah."
I hope it's not that easy.
Mm.
Oh, I am speaking in summation, but yeah, I think that's going to be the point of John Sims, is to bring back the evil.
Yeah, but he was overly energetic evil, and that didn't always work.
Yeah, but I mean, he's going to remind her that it's good to be bad, so to speak.
We'll see. We'll see how that plays off, if that is the way they go.
Okay. So, for one, I liked Peter Capaldi's acting in there. Especially, bonus points goes out to the world's creepiest smile.
Which one was that? There's a couple of
That's
them.
the one where he's doing the start, where he's giving those propaganda speeches.
Oh.
And at the end of it, he gives that grin that I swear looked like the guy from frickin' Doom when he gets the BFG 9000. It's just absolutely psychotic grin.
Facebook wanted him to be the Joker after that.
Well, it also reminded me of that scene from Hitchhikers, the movie, with the message from Magrathea.
Oh yeah.
With these nuclear missiles will. Thank you, and we look forward to your business in your next life. And that's that same freaking grin. It's
Oh,
just
there's Mrs.
this absolutely malicious psychoticness.
Mm-hmm.
I would also like to give bonus points going off of, I think it was Thomas's, stating that he was glad that this wasn't a just another simulation. I'm also glad this wasn't a temporal reset button.
Yes,
Mhm.
that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so bad. What didn't you like about the episode? And first of all, we will go to Aaron. And what Aaron didn't like was everything was supposed to go back to normal, but what about the people publicly executed by the monks? Did everyone think they died in a war or in an accident? Did these deaths happen at all? Were they all faked for TV? Basically, their brains were altered to fit circumstance. Human race is always very much capable of self-delusion. So,
And forgetting tragedies.
yep. Doctor Who has shown us that repeatedly. Okay, so Thomas, what didn't you like about the episode?
Honestly, God, I'm trying to pinpoint something without picking out a specific scene because it could count for least favorite scene.
Yeah, this is the in general category.
Yeah. I guess just the doctor's deception seemed like it went a bit far. As like that overall bit.
Yeah, at the same point, he had to still prove that she hadn't fully been lost to the monks. Because remember, she's the one that basically let all this happen. She's the one that surrendered.
Yeah.
She's the one that gave consent. So the doctor had to wonder if she was the one that turned. So when she shows up looking for him, is she really trying to work against the monks, or is she trying to basically uncover this resistance packet? So that would be my definition of why it went that extreme. I have other issues, but I'll save that for later. Tim, how about you? What didn't you like about the episode overall?
There were some times when the Doctor didn't seem to be as in control of things as I would have liked him to be. Like,
Well,
tied up, for example.
what's that?
Like when he was tied up
At the end of it?
at the end of it, yeah.
Well, that was kind of lampshading, if you would, Forest of the Dead, where, River Song handcuffed him to handcuffed Tennant to part of the control system, so he couldn't interfere with her using her own brain to transfer all this stuff. It was that moment of companion self-sacrifice kind of thing. Only, of course, it didn't actually happen, so it was a lampshade. So it's not like this hasn't happened before in Who history. And for the rest of it, the Doctor was basically pulling everything out of his ass at the last minute constantly. So things are going to be flying a bit out of control sometimes. I mean, the fact that he has to keep going to Missy for advice. You're asking the Master to help you save the human race. That's fucking desperation right there.
And she wants a pony.
That's another point about the Doctor is like, it seems that the answer he got from Missy, he could have figured out on his own. Like
he needed help working through it, I think, because there was little bits of information that Missy was giving him that helped him work through it, like how the monks were doing this kind of thing. The initial point of psychic, whatchamadinger, was something Missy gave him, and then he was able to talk his way further into it.
The Doctor's propensity for denial is almost as great as that of the human race.
Okay, so were we up to Bill? That was Tim that went last?
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, so it's you, Bill.
Yeah, and I was trying to settle on a specific thing. I think I'm just going to go with the fact that there were just still so many remaining mysteries about the monks. For instance, we can kind of guess as to what their motives were, but normally, there would be some more specific, reason. Were they doing this for the kicks? Were they doing this for Earth resources? What, were they harvesting psychic energy? What were their motives? Things like that. And the fact that even when their plot is foiled, they can still erase all memory of them from everyone's minds. That's not really explained. So just a lot of open-ended questions.
So
They just seem to
a
be
Moffat
big.
villain.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just seem to be a bunch of generic invaders.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Moffat thought them up, passed them on, but didn't give any details. So everybody thought Moffat was going to do it, and he didn't. Damn it, Moffat. All right, Matt. How about you? What was your lead?
So actually, further on the monks, just wow, paper cardboard cutout. Like you could literally, you could actually replace these guys with the silence, and would have been the exact same effect thereabouts.
Pretty much.
Because they both have shooting lightning and killing people outright kind of deals, and then taking over, etc., etc.
At the same time, I'm glad they didn't use the silence.
I'm glad they didn't, because that would be even more of a, oh god, you're just ruining your own things again, Moffat.
Although speaking of
Exactly.
which, they did the moon landing, and when he was like one small step for man, my first thought was, you should kill us all on sight.
Yes, they also forgot that too. But otherwise, yeah, the monks are so generic in this episode. It literally could have been anybody else. The one episode where they could have actually fleshed them out more is where we feel like they've been fleshed out the least.
You know what I thought, Bill? That scene where you're seeing it reflected in the helmet and you see the monks there. I mentally inserted Dr. Manhattan standing behind the monks.
I'm here too.
Just looming behind the monks. Okay. Because they did, that was pretty much the exact same thing they did in Watchmen.
The monks look back and go, "Oh, didn't expect you here."
Dead monk.
Uh,
Okay. So, that was you, Matt?
Yep.
Okay, that leaves me. What didn't I like about this episode? Oh, God.
What else haven't we hit over the head yet?
Well, yeah, I was not fond of the monks.
Not to say that I don't mind the look of them. They have an interesting design, but yeah, they as actual villains are meh right now.
I didn't like the monks. I didn't like the monks' plot. Their whole...
They're non-plot.
Yeah, they're non-plot. They were just not the greatest villains. There was no reason. There was no reason for them for doing this. There was no real characterization of the monks, except they talk like this. And
and for what reason they chose to look like zombies.
They chose to look like zombies while telling the world that they're benevolent.
You must love
friendly.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think for something that's benevolent and friendly, they would look
that can
like
choose
that.
what they look like.
And then you discover that behind this illusion was the monk. You know? That would have made more sense. It would have been more Doctor Who.
Yes. That would actually been more proper Doctor Who.
So why they made them look like this raspy horror thing and had them try to control by charisma, I don't honestly know. It makes no sense.
It's a lot of ideas that are interesting on their own that don't work together.
Outside of the regal robes, there's no charisma to these things at all, to be honest.
And it would have made sense if they had that. And they were this race that had been horribly ripped apart in some war, and they needed to use the Earth to regenerate their population somehow or something like that. But no, there's no storyline behind them. There's no character growth or development of the villain, which is a Moffat trademark that annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point that I'm pretty sure there's a fan theory out there that people are assuming that these are Cybermen in disguise.
I believe we've mentioned that a couple times. Yeah,
that was actually one of my running theories, but that ended last episode when we saw the monks in the for reals. Because I had thought that we were seeing them as monks in the simulation, and then when we saw them in the reals world, they were Cybermen. And that would have made sense to me that what you were actually seeing was what was left inside the shell. But didn't work out that way. Would have been more interesting if it had. The monks are simply singularly uninteresting. They are probably the most uninteresting villains that's come out since the Moffat era. And I'm not even with Matt. I don't even think they look good. They look like just fucking walking corpses. The one that was sitting on the chair, I don't even think there was a guy in there.
No, there was a guy in there. I could actually see him fidgeting once in a while when people were moving around him. I will say that the makeup is bad, like zombie bad. Like this doesn't work for the kind of character you're making. But the robes were interesting and very nicely done. But something else needed to be done with the actual creature.
Generally does a really good job with stuff.
Yeah, the costuming was great. The creature effect was something that desired much more charisma to come out of the creature. Because corpse does not equal charisma. Sorry, but no.
All right, so favorite scene. And Aaron's favorite scene was Missy and the Doctor going over how the monks are controlling society through the game of hot and cold. Playful yet sinister, and shows a lot of doubt onto whether Missy is serious about turning good. I think she is, but she can't help being Missy.
That's some of the issue there, yes.
I still think she wants to take the Doctor in the back and have a good shag. I really do. But but I could get into the concept of Time Lords switching genders upon regeneration and sexuality on a completely different podcast. We are not going to discuss it here. But that was a good scene. Thomas, how about you?
I enjoyed the entire bit where basically the entire scene where Bill fixes everything, basically, because it's another. I honestly, if the nearest thing that I can compare this to is I guess, like the same kind of vein of Companion fixes everything, which I guess technically there's at least one of those, I think, per Companion runs in New Who. But the closest one I can think of for this would probably be Parting of the Ways, I guess, kind of.
Actually, no. This reminded me of Rings of a Cotton.
Rings of a Cotton, but where the answer was actually a competent one.
Yeah, well, no, Rings of a Cotton, remember, the whole thing is the Doctor had the creature feast on his memories. And it was still not sated after that.
Yeah, it didn't take any of his memories.
Bill, stop interrupting me, please. But then you had Clara pull out the leaf, which represented this timeline that was, cut short or never happened. And that was too much for it. It's the exact same thing with Bill with this fictionalized version of her parents. And that overloading the monk. It's basically the same goddamn story.
It's a similar idea, but I grasp this one a little bit as more sensical than the whole Oh God, the leaf.
Neither one makes a lot of fucking sense to me on why this would stop a bad.
Well, this
Why
makes
why
sense to me
was
because
her
this is literally the fictitious version of Bill's mother is the sole reason why she kept sane. It was literally her guiding light through not being controlled.
I don't see why
that much I
would
can
have been
understand and grasp and go, okay,
untouchable.
that works.
I don't really see why that was untouchable by the monks.
I
Considering
don't
it had
understand why
absolutely...
it's not untouchable, but I understand it as a sensical thing that they kind of pre-built at the beginning of the episode, kind of deal.
Yeah.
I don't really see
There
it
was
that
a
way.
little bit of build to it, not much, but there was a teeny tiny little bit.
No. Sorry, we're gonna have to differ on that one. All right, so Tim, I believe we were up to you. Your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is at the beginning where Nardole comes and they're testing each other out, and Bill has the chair, and
She has to ask all those like off the wall questions.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a decent scene because you have to find out who remembers what shit correctly. Whose memories aren't altered by the monks. Okay, you remember stuff traveling with the doctor and everything. Good, you're you. I will talk to you.
Yeah, and even if you did remember, like the way Nardole remembers things, be sort of like the way he would describe things might not fit with Bill's remembrance. So there's also that tension.
Well, it wasn't, because most of the questions she asked were based on discussions that Bill and Nardole had at various points in the last few episodes. The bit on what sound do space doors make was an actual conversation they'd had in Oxygen.
Yeah.
Where Bill said, "Oh, I thought doors would go whoosh," and it's like, why would you think that? You know, because basically she was imitating the sound they make on Star Trek. So that was an actual conversation that they had had. Everything that was mentioned there was a drawback to a conversation that they had had in an earlier episode. So that was beautiful. Because every time they'd ask the question, he'd answer like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." It was a very well done scene. Bill, how about you? What's your favorite scene?
So I think I'm going to go with the scene of Bill kind of interrogating the doctor up to the point of shooting him, because we very often have these situations where if there's something major happening, the doctor tells the companion to promise they'll do this or that, and they always do, and you never quite get the sense that they're really willing or able to follow up with it if that sort of situation happened. And here you see a situation where Bill tests him, actually makes sure that beyond reasonable doubt that situation has happened, and then she actually does follow through and does what's best for the Earth, as far as she can be capable of knowing at that time.
Okay. Matt?
Actually, I got two of them in particular. I'll see which one.
Choose one.
I'll go in with one. I'll see if the other one gets picked up. So actually, mine comes right after Bill's segment. So I liked the part from after the gunshot to the regeneration to finding out that this is all.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
This has all been a fake ploy, and then threatening to beat up Nardole again, to which he actually legitimately backs away.
God damn it, Matt. That was mine, and that was the only one I had left.
There's others.
There's a bunch of other scenes. I'm not sure how many I liked that haven't already been said. No, I'm done. That was the last one I had left.
Want me to give you mine? My
Go
second
ahead.
one then. The last scene with Missy and the doctor in the vault.
Okay, yeah, that was good, but it wasn't on my favorite scenes list because I'm not sure where it's leading. I'm not quite
We're not
sure
sure
where
where it's leading, but it's interesting. It's very interesting.
That was really kind of the placing of Chekhov's gun, and we'll see when it gets fired later in the series.
Mm-hmm.
All right, scenes that you don't like. And Aaron's scene is that soldier whose radio is shot and leading him to become brainwashed doesn't pan out too much. Yeah, I agree with that. I thought he might get a shot in at the doctor and possibly trigger an actual regeneration. No, Aaron. Too early.
Way too early.
Yeah, with the doctor would have to try to hold. No, that would be horrible, Aaron, trying to hold back the regeneration for 4 freaking episodes.
Considering the amount of adventures the Doctor allegedly went on to between the 4 knock scene and I Don't Want to Go.
Yes, it would still. I mean, basically, could you imagine being an actor and saying for the next 4 episodes, you have to act like you're holding in a gunshot wound?
Yeah,
A
that's
fatal gunshot wound.
That's gonna be
There's,
real hard.
I mean, there's the possibility of time passing in there, yes, but look at it as the standpoint of the actor, having to basically spend every scene holding your stomach and lurching weird and collapsing half the time. It's not fun.
So basically, Peter Davison before he regenerated.
It would be like let's
way.
make Caves of Androzani last for freaking 4 serials.
The last episode of Caves of Androzani, to be precise.
Yes.
Just no.
Yeah. And, Peter's Caves of Androzani led into frickin' Colin Baker's regeneration. The most well-known unstable regeneration of them all.
Some people would say to make the last episode of Caves of Androzani last an extra season to put that off.
Oh god, I hope next year it doesn't start with Twin Dilemma.
So, Thomas, your least favorite scene?
Honestly, when Bill shot the Doctor,
Okay, you're just going right for the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
Got it.
because
just stampede right towards the elephant.
Yeah, I almost thought of one other thing, but it was just I just wanted to get this out of the way now. It felt too her being pissed at the Doctor seemed like okay, that would make sense. He's basically turned his back on humanity, kind of thing, of at least as far as she knows. But going as far as to grab the nearest gun and shooting 4 times, not just once, 4 times, is okay, that's a bit much. That's a bit of a leap.
It wasn't necessarily anger because she did say that if he's allied with the monks, then humanity has no chance. And I think that's what she was going for with the shooting.
Yeah. At the same time, that transfer to where she went to shooting the Doctor was too quick.
Yeah.
It almost felt out of... I mean, I know she was holding the gun on him, but that transfer still felt like it was too fast.
That's a little so-so for me. I can understand it.
And then shooting him 4 times was a bit overkill. Shooting twice is good. Time Lord, you shoot him twice. Once to trigger the regeneration, and second to shoot him during the regeneration.
Actually, that's very true.
Not that she would have known anyway.
Not that she
No,
knows because I
I'm
don't
just
think they covered
saying.
that
I'm
yet.
just saying, if you ever have the need to shoot a Time Lord, do remember that little piece of advice.
My thought is, if you're shooting someone dangerous and you're about to be killed by his guards the second you pull the trigger, empty the clip. If he gets up afterwards, she just wasted her life for no reason.
That's also
without
very true.
knowing what's going to come later. I would empty the clip into his ass.
Yeah, that's true. The guards should have been firing the second she pulled the trigger. I mean, that would have been general policy.
And she should have been diving Max Payne style.
It was way too overdramatic. Okay. So Tim, how about you? What's your least favorite scene?
Okay, my least favorite scene, and I don't think this is a bad scene, I just have a problem with it, is the scene where Missy tells the Doctor to they have to kill Bill. And
Well, my problem is the fact that she didn't actually use the term "kill Bill."
yeah. And my problem is that
Which Missy of all characters would have.
it was too predictable. So, I immediately saw where that was going.
Mm-hmm.
Going is like, Bill is the key. They have to kill Bill. It's like
It doesn't help that there was a
long
line in the
before.
trailer that basically spoiled it.
Actually, what they failed to do, they could have made an excellent end of time reference in there. Because remember what they said about the Master's head at the end of End of Time? Oh, the link is in my head. Kill me, you kill the link. And it would have been great for Missy to actually use those words back on Capaldi. Remember?
Oh, don't you remember, Doctor? The link is in the head.
Mhm.
Now I want to rewrite this episode as the monks having been someone that, encountered Rassilon and his crew ages ago, and, one was a variation of the other strategy.
Well, if you look at their robes, they are kind of Time Lordy robes.
Yeah.
Almost.
It would have been weird if the monks had been some kind of old, undead-like sect of degenerate Time Lords.
Kind of like the stuff that's hanging around in the library, almost.
No, not the stuff that we saw like in the cloisters of Gallifrey, but more like a whole bunch of people that look like the Master from the Fourth Doctor era.
Yeah.
That would have actually been interesting. It would have been intriguing.
Hmm.
But
a
no, of
whole
course
bunch of
they-
renegades that are still barely holding on to life.
Yeah.
Mm.
That would have actually made something kind of weird and kind of sense-like, but nope. Done there.
Nope, generic bullshit.
Yep. Okay, so
Yeah.
Bill, your least favorite scene.
So we've discussed various aspects of this scene a lot, but I'm going to go with two specific, back-to-back sections of it. The regeneration and the fact that nobody who should have found that weird. Because one, the regeneration itself, how did he do it? Why did he do it when Bill didn't know about regeneration, et cetera, et cetera?
Mhm.
And then all of the humans were just like, yeah, it's another Tuesday.
Well,
I get Nardole had a reason to understand it. Nobody else in the room did.
No, unless,
Yeah.
of course, he'd been practicing it. And I would have loved him to have, showed like he pulls down and he has this little collar that's giving off an energy aura effect.
Yes, that would have been perfect.
Mhm.
To do that kind of thing, to show that he's not really wasting regeneration energy on a freaking, freaking hustle.
Well, that is what it seems to be, is that he's not actually using regeneration energy, because as they said, they just shot blanks.
Yes.
But then where did the glowing come from? It had-
Yeah,
Yes.
they don't really explain where the glow came from.
But yes, if he had been practicing that with special effects and stuff, their complete lack of reaction would have been fine. Because obviously he had done this a few times before, and probably did it and shocked the hell out of most of the thing. Bill should have had more of a reaction, though.
Yeah.
She looked generally freaked out until all of a sudden it stopped.
Though it did seem he
For a
must have
moment.
thrown that in on his own, because he even brings up to Nardole that he was wondering if it was a bit much. And Nardole liked the touch.
No, there is the theory that that's sort of intended to be foreshadowing for the Christmas special, which I get, but it was sloppy.
Fuck. It's their fucking Kobayashi Maru.
Mare?
Nobody gets this reference? Star Trek 2.
Yes.
I-
I'm
okay.
trying.
A little Star Trek history for you guys.
I'm trying to remember how they fulfilled that. Yeah.
Okay, so in the production of Star Trek 2, word was leaked to the public that Spock was supposed to die in Star Trek 2.
Uh-huh.
Well, they didn't want this to actually get out for realsies. So Nick Meyer, the director, sits down and writes the Kobayashi Maru scene for the beginning of
That's
Star
right,
Trek
it was
2.
Spock dying.
In the beginning of the Kobayashi Maru scene, several of the bridge crew officers are badly wounded, so to speak, and Spock is killed when his station explodes.
Forgot that part.
And when all seems hope is lost, they go, all right, open her up, and Kirk comes in, and people start getting up, and so does Spock, and everyone's going, oh, so that's what happened. And then they kill Spock again at the end of the movie. But it made it seem more poignant at the time. So this is their Kobayashi Maru. This is their fake-out regeneration.
Except that they already...
Except we already know it's not the fake-out, yes.
Yeah.
So the only people that's going to fool are people that are new viewers that had no idea the news coming out before this.
Yeah, the people who haven't been paying attention to the news at all.
I think it's more likely that it's introducing the concept of regeneration in a sloppy way.
It really...
viewers.
Yeah, it doesn't. It was a bad idea when Russell T Davies did it in Stolen Earth: Journey's End, and it's a bad idea for Stephen Moffat doing it now. Don't have the Doctor fake. And actually, when Matt Smith did it in freaking Series 6.
No, Series... I think... Are you thinking of Angels Take Manhattan?
No.
Or, you're talking about when he fake died.
When they freaking did the whole thing at the lake in Utah at the beginning of Season 6 that culminated in the finale of Series 6.
Right.
Don't mock regenerate the Doctor. Don't pull that shit. I mean, it's already fucked up our Doctor numbers enough already that we're technically on the 14th Doctor when it's on the number 12 on our lists. Don't fuck us up any worse, please.
Don't mess with continuity more than it already has been. It's already a hodgepodge.
Matt.
Least favorite scene, yes.
Yes.
So apparently the monks are all seeing and all knowing, but they can't tell what the Doctor would come back to the university for, and are waiting in his office instead of where he's going to actually go.
I don't think they're as all seeing and all knowing as they think they are.
No, I'm like they're all seeing this is the fact that they ran the simulation thousands of times. But
apparently they forgot to run the simulation past.
I'm pretty sure the monks have no idea what's in the vault.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure if they know that the vault exists.
I don't. I was gonna say, like, they seem to be able to view anything that can be viewed by like cameras or whatever. So, like, I'm assuming that just means that there wasn't any in that basement. That
there's no data
vault
on the vault, therefore it wasn't in their simulations. Therefore, Missy isn't in their simulations. Therefore, they don't fucking know.
Yeah.
That's a rogue element.
And that's kind of a faulty thing in of itself, is that their simulations are so limited that it's surprising they try to take over at all.
All right, so my least favorite scene, because most of mine were touched here, but I, honest to God, didn't like the ending with her mother being the magic thing, and we talked about this earlier, but it still hits me as being wrong. It seemed to me as it being a very rushed, very hand-wavy kind of exit for what was going on. It just, I don't know.
I can understand what they're going for, but at the same time, I can understand that some people would find it too hand-wavy too. But this is one that I will say I understood it a bit.
At least it's actually had set up.
Honest to God, I missed the days of John Pertwee, where he would have gone into the monks, seen the simulation, reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, and fed the pulses back into the monks. Yes.
I forgot to mention. Yeah, that's one thing that threw me off during the episode. He's like, he finds the room where they're projecting this. And I'm like, okay, now you reverse the polarity of the neutron flow and you've won.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they don't even try to do that.
That would be the far easier way.
It would have been the Doctor Who solution. You reverse the polarity of the psychic feed.
Even if they pulled a switch and they found out there was a failsafe and it failed, I would have been happy.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he pulled out the sonic and there was protection
and it was freaking deadlocked.
Yeah, at least attempted. But if it actually did work, it would also let us have a more action-oriented ending sequence Get the blood
It
racing
just
and give a
didn't.
finale to these monks, which, to be honest, we could do away with anyway.
Yeah, I can see so many different solutions that would have been better that they just kind of picked this emotional charged hole, but God, it's still a freaking plot hole. Okay, so final thoughts. And I'm going to try to make this quick because we're running out of time.
Yes,
Aaron.
very close.
Wondered if these episodes were somehow some kind of attempt at bringing Doctor Who to the big screen, or that they might be testing for a full season serial. I believe this is actually true. I think this is Moffat's attempt at trying to use a writing pool to write an ongoing string, and this was kind of a test thing. Aaron enjoyed it, but also felt the monks weren't quite enough to fill all 3 episodes together tightly enough for this 3-parter. In some ways, it reminded her of the recurring theme of the Shadowkin in Class, only with a better payoff in the 3rd episode. Okay, so Thomas, what did you think? Final thoughts.
Honestly, I think I was the most iffy on the previous 2 episodes out of everyone, which is weird because usually I'm the most. In some cases, I usually feel like I'm fence sitting or the most like forgiving, but this was overall kind of mediocre build up to. Even though I liked elements of all 3, the overall plot thread ends up being pretty mediocre for me.
All right, Tim.
I thought of the series, the first episode was the best. It sort of petered out, but Bill and the Doctor's performances stayed strong throughout, and it seemed that Missy was sort of just shoehorned in there just for the sake of having Missy in the episode.
Okay.
The series, but yeah, that was basically my thoughts.
Okay, Bill.
This definitely comes off as the 3rd episode was written first, and then the other 2 were written to introduce elements from the 3rd. Unfortunately, the 3rd wasn't updated to include any of the characters from the others. It would have been nice to either see Penny or Rachel Denning's character, or even the Pope, any of those, just to kind of tie the story together would have been nice. Altogether, this specific
We couldn't see the Pope. He was a simulation.
In terms of this specific episode, it had a strong atmosphere and some good elements, but there were a lot of holes and a lot of questions raised that it just doesn't seem are ever going to be answered. So it kind of comes off with a disappointing aftertaste.
All right, Matt.
As a whole, sticking to this episode mostly, it has really a lot of very good elements, and I can understand where they're going with it. But I will say that some of the execution is very faulty, and other parts of it still need explaining away. And with Moffat in control, we're never going to get those explanations, as usual.
All right, so as a 3-parter, this was probably the poorest payoff I can remember for a multi-part episode like this. I actually felt the 2nd episode was the strongest of the 3, and it just seemed that it just kind of petered out with this whole mentality and everything. You really didn't feel vindicated by the end of it, and just kind of lackluster. Thus said, I did like the 2nd part pretty well, and that's going to reflect in my final score a little bit. Speaking of which scores, Erin gave this whole arc a 4.5. She apparently liked it pretty much. Thomas.
Let's see. Going by previous stuff, I'm probably going to give this a 3.5.
All right, Tim.
I too will give this a 3.5 overall.
Wow. All right, Bill.
I've also been thinking of 3.5.
5. And Matt.
I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to go with a 3.5 as well. It was a
Okay.
little mundane at the end.
I'm going to go with a 4, but only because I liked that second episode quite a bit. All right. So all in all, that averages this out to a 3.8. And that will put this in our rankings at.
Yeah.
I'm hurrying as fast as I can.
It was good, not great.
Data, sort range, C, and column D.
Good
All
for me.
right.
Was it good for you?
And a 3.8. That will put this at number 114 out of 202 things reviewed.
Oof.
It is on par with Robot of Sherwood, Power of the Daleks,
Yeah.
The Red House, Day of the Daleks, The End of the World, which, now that I just brought that up, and Daleks Invasion Earth, Girl in the Fireplace, Enemy of the World, Ghostlight, and Boomtown. So it is kind of right in that mediocre range.
Very close to it, yes.
So there we go. 114 of 202 reviewed. That's all we have to say about Extremis, Pyramid at the End of the World, The Lie of the Land. Bill.
Okay. So if you enjoyed listening to us, please go ahead and like the episode and give us your comments as to how you felt about this three-parter. Again, tied for one of the top 3 longest New Who stories. So what your thoughts on that are. You can also subscribe to us on Twitch and YouTube so you can keep getting our new uploads notifications. And you can like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter for news and updates. If you want to support us and help us come up with new surprises, you can head on over to patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast and do that there.
All right. And on next week's show, with the Earth saved, it's off for a weekend on Mars. 19th century Mars. With British officers? What the hell? Well, at least there's ice warriors. It's Empress of Mars, written by Mark Gatiss and starring Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, and Matt Lucas as Nardole. Oh, Empress of Mars, I'm seeing what you're doing there. Quiet, Napa.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Nighty night.